Don't know what's going on here. Why that was stuck right there. Hold on, guys. Let me know if you guys can see me and stuff. This all of a sudden this doesn't work. All right. I think you guys can see me though, right? Let me know if you guys can see me and hear me before I get started. For real, for real. Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah, I don't know what's going on there. It works here. Oh, it's just like a StreamYard problem. It's not my problem, I guess. Anyways, welcome to another live show, another live She Knows Arsenal. Make sure you guys like the video and subscribe to the channel on your way in. And most importantly, get into the chat and let me know what you guys are thinking and feeling. Obviously, like over the last couple of days, there really hasn't been any transfer news, and I'm not really that surprised about that. I just kind of think that now that we're in the selling mode, you know what time it is. You know what time it is. And, I'd kind of said this when they first started to brief about needing to do sales, that I wasn't 100% confident that incomings were still a thing. Because usually with Arsenal, once we need to sell, the incomings stop, so we're pretty much looking at a week or so out from the season starting. And this is most likely, like, on your right, on the right-hand side, what team we're going to have starting for the first game at Old Trafford. And so I kind of wanted to gauge your guys' opinion on this and like how you guys are feeling from a confidence level. Like, are you excited for the season? Are we ready? Is this enough? Because I'm not sure. I asked my group chat this morning, like, are any of you guys excited about the season? Like, do you feel like we're ready? And it was frosty. I'm not gonna lie. It was frosty in the chat. So, um, looking at this, this is pretty much what we're gonna have. The only reason why I haven't added Calafiori is because, to be honest, he's becoming kind of a sick note, and it's more likely that Zinchenko will be available than him for the game against Man United. He wasn't in preseason or in the pictures from today. So yeah, he's pretty much a sick note. So this is pretty much what we're looking at. And I use the lineup that started against Tottenham. I do think, I know Sibs is saying I don't think Norgard is starting over Zubamendi, but Arteta did start Norgard over Zubamendi against Tottenham. Zubamendi didn't have any problems because he played for like 15 minutes in the second half. So I would not rule out Arteta starting Norgard because he's prem proven and knows how to play in this league, and we have a tough beginning of the season. When I look at our beginning of the season, I more think of it as like it's so difficult that we actually cannot afford to start the same team that we are usually starting, because that team does not have the answers. But Arteta probably thinks of it the opposite, that the beginning of the season is so difficult that he can't afford not to start his default lineup, and that lineup is the lineup that we're looking at here. I do think Arteta played his hand against Spurs. He probably viewed that as our most difficult challenge in preseason, and wanted to play as close to the starting team as possible. And this is pretty much what he gave us. The only player that I actually see coming in is Gabriel, who was a part of the pictures today. So him and Timber are in full training, but I would imagine since White has played quite a bit in preseason that he'll start the season. Timber will come in later, but Gabriel is a must start, whether he's 50, 60, 70%. I don't think you can afford to start Kivior. I know Kivior has been good in some games, but yeah, it's just too difficult of a start of a season to, yeah, no. Um, so yeah, this is pretty much what we're looking at. And this is what we will start with. Whether or not Arsenal pull the finger out and bring in some sort of like top level attacker as the days tick by, that's less and less likely. Um, it just is, it's less and less likely. So, yeah. Let's see. Martinelli and Havertz starting next weekend, most likely. I would imagine so. I just don't see Arteta being brave enough to start new players. Like I don't see him doing it. The only player maybe would be Noni, but even him, like I just don't see it. Beckham, what are you doing? I don't understand what this dog is doing. I really, really don't. He's insane. I don't understand this dog. I don't know why he's obsessed with the couch all of a sudden. It's really annoying. Um, But for whoever's in the chat saying that Odegaard didn't start, he did against Spurs. So if you don't remember, it was Raya, White, Saliba, Kivior, Miles Lewis Skelly, Odegaard, Norgard, Rice, Bukayo Saka, Havertz, and Martinelli. That's who started against Spurs. So he did absolutely start. So this is the team that he went with against Spurs. This is the team that he's most likely going to start up against Manchester United, unless he's planning to just be a completely different person. Mikel is incredibly, he seems like a very scared person. Like, I don't want to start the season against these bigger teams without my guys that know the system, so he's going to start with this. I'm really hoping that Gyökeres gets serious minutes in the next two games. That 15 minutes against Spurs was insufficient. Yeah, it definitely did not feel like Arteta was desperate to get him, integrated. Actually 2 summers ago, Arteta did integrate Kai and Rice quite quickly, but I think maybe Arteta was scarred from that. Arteta gets scarred by things. So he started Rice and Kai earlier on in that season, and it didn't work. We stumbled around quite a bit. I am concerned about let me just look at him really quick. I don't know what he's doing. I am concerned. What are you doing? Sit in here. What are you doing? Sit in here. Sorry. I'm still trying to get over this cold, so excuse me. There's a lot going on. Benz has a cone on his head because he got his ball chopped off. I don't know what you're doing, Bex. I don't know what your life is about. And I'm still gonna get over this cold. But yeah, he actually did start Rice and Kai right away in that season. They were starters instantly, really. Um, and then we started off the season, I won't say poorly because, we were still like in and amongst it, but we definitely did not look as good as we did the season prior. And there was we were getting results, but we weren't really playing well. Um, and so I don't know if that scarred Mikel, and now he's just like, okay, I've got my set group. But the only reason it wasn't because Rice and Kai were new, it was because Kai wasn't good enough to play midfield. It was really just that simple. But again, if Arteta wants to, get this midfield going, he kind of needs to just pull the finger out. You didn't chase Zubamendi for 2 years for him not to start in these big games. Why, like so many of our big games, the games that are going to make or break our season are at the beginning. So you kind of need to go ahead and start, with Zubamendi, Rice, and Odegaard. Especially as good as Norgard has played in this preseason, I do think he's played quite well. There's just a class difference between him and Zubamendi. If you don't change anything about that starting 11 and your tactics are also the same, you're going to get the same results. Arsenal need more than anything a player that is not afraid to pass the ball forward quickly. And so that's Zubamendi. You spent the money, just play him. But starting Norgard, that was a red flag to me. I was like, What are you doing? Because Norgard, I actually think, has played more minutes with Odegaard and Rice in this entirety of the preseason than Zubamendi has. Zubamendi has played more with Ethan and Marino, and when it was Rice and Odegaard, it's usually Norgard with them, and he gets less minutes. That's a red flag. You actually kind of need to go ahead and start playing him. I don't know what you're waiting on. Are you waiting on us to drop points? Like, what are you doing? Rice and Zuby could actually switch for me. We are basically banking on Noni to be the superstar if we don't get Eze. We'll get to that in a second. Rice, Zuby, double pivot. It seems so simple, but we do have a madman gaffer. Who knows? There's actually been a lot of comps going around over the last couple of days with Rice in a deeper position. I think we spoke about this a couple of days ago as well, that Rice is not bad in the 8, but the 8 position needs to be played differently. The box crasher, highest in the 3, non-build-up role doesn't suit him as well as the deeper role, and it also does not suit Odegaard. So basically you don't have any creativity in your team when Odegaard is basically back further than Rice, and Rice is not receiving the ball in between the lines. He's not in the pockets. He's not picking passes in and around the box. You just have no creativity in your team when you play this way. So just play with Rice deeper. Like our best iteration of Rice in the 8 came when he was deeper. But Arteta has kind of forgotten that or has thrown it away. But that doesn't surprise me because anything good we've ever done, he's chucked it in the trash. So yeah, I don't know why he's so desperate to make the left center mid not an option in build-up, not somebody that plays a little bit deeper, not somebody that supports the 6. They're very much so disconnected from the rest of the midfield, and it feels like it because we always feel understaffed in midfield when we're playing against good teams. Even mid-table teams, it's like, where's our midfield? It's weird. Rice is a monster without the ball. We need a ball-playing, goal-scoring forward. Rice is uncomfortable near the opposition box. Get him out of the 8. It's hindering him. If we don't see Zuby starting more games, especially in the Emirates Cup, that's when I'll be really concerned. Tomorrow is going to be a huge indicator. It like Arteta definitely viewed that Spurs game as an important game. That was probably to him our biggest test. We played against a team that he probably rates and all that kind of shit. He rates Thomas Frank. So he went out there he played those players for like 70 minutes. That whole group, this group in that starting 11 for 70 fucking minutes and made no changes. My antennas were going. I was like, this is what you view as important. The 2 next games will obviously be playing against a lesser opposition. So maybe he'll rotate a little bit more. But, as preseason goes on, Arteta tends to get closer to his 11. And players that are less likely to start usually don't. So if Zubamendi doesn't start and Norgard is starting, and Arteta is just not he's not a brave manager. He's somebody that's going to go safe, and safe for him is Kai and Martinelli because he's good defensively and shit like that. So yeah, it was crazy. Andrew was saying I was literally screaming at the screen for him to make a sub, and he just kind of refused to make a sub. But that's how he is. He's very rigid and doesn't make changes either tactically or with subs, even if he has options. And so he went for like 70 minutes with the same group, and it was really frustrating because they weren't able to break down a mid block, and the one thing I will say about Zubamendi is that even though it wasn't as clean as we probably want it to be in the first 2 games against AC Milan and Newcastle, there was a lot more penetration, like between the lines from Zubamendi passing the ball, punching it forward. We lost that against Spurs. There just wasn't any movement. It really just was very reminiscent of last season, but there's no surprise because you didn't change the tactics and the players are exactly the same. Martinelli gets the ball, passes it backwards. Rice is disconnected. I can't remember a single thing that Rice did in that game. It's all give it to Saka, give it to Saka, give it to Saka. He wasn't necessarily super fresh in that game. Kai Havertz, basically tackling himself the entire game. And we made a mistake in possession. They scored, and we couldn't rebound from it. So he needs to change the approach. And if there's any season to kind of chuck it in the trash, it's this one. I don't know why it's like when we're doing good things, you chuck it in the trash, but when we're doing bad shit, you hold on to it. And whatever we've been doing the last 2 seasons, chuck it in the trash, do something new. I know they're saying that we're trying to play a more direct style and all that kind of stuff, but I didn't see that against Spurs. I saw very much the horseshoe of death. And when we go to Old Trafford, they're going to play on the counterattack. They're going to play three at the back with a bunch of wing backs, and they're going to sit back, and Bruno's going to get the ball, chuck it forward to Mbomo and Cunha, and they're going to hit us on the counter, and they're going to score. That's exactly how the game is going to go if we don't have a different plan of action. Literally the script is so obvious that it's actually making me sick. The script is so obvious on how we're going to leave Old Trafford without all 3 points. Horseshoe of death, can't get through. They hit us on the counter. Like, it's so obvious. How much do you buy into the theory that Arteta is hiding his hand with these tactics and we'll see a new style game week 1? I don't buy it. That's not true. Come on. Like, Arteta is going to play the exact same way he was playing last season. He doesn't see any problem with it. And maybe it's just because he views this as long as our system is defensively solid, he doesn't care. He really doesn't. I don't actually think he's concerned about scoring goals or being free flowing. I look at, especially like the main team, the only team I've really been looking at in preseason, not even full games, but just clips, is Liverpool. Because I do feel like ultimately that's where we're trying to get to, or that's who we're trying to compete with. And they're scoring very like ad nauseum. They're scoring very easily. They don't have to worry about being shut out. They don't have to worry about not scoring goals, So I do think that it's a worry that I feel like in this preseason we've scored 4 goals. And let's see. Let's actually go back. Let me look, because I literally cannot remember that first game at all. It felt like a million years ago. So Saka scored 1. So Saka had a goal. And against Newcastle, they scored 1. We scored from a penalty. So in terms of like open play goals, we've scored 2. One was from Moreno and one was from Saka, which tracks. It tracks that our other forwards don't score goals. And we struggle to score more than like a goal a game. The Newcastle one was, like we got the penalty and they scored an own goal, So meanwhile, other teams are scoring 3-4 goals in preseason. So we really should be feeling a lot more free flowing and scoring, especially in preseason. Preseason, you really should be scoring goals, but the fact that we're not is a little concerning. These next 2 games, we need to be, I think Liverpool flattened like Bilbao like 4-1 in one of those games. I don't expect us to score as many as them because they just are a better attacking side than us, and by a pretty large distance. But we should at least score 2 goals from open play and have a lot of chances against them. They're not a particularly great team. If we struggle, then I don't really know. It just looks more fun to play for Liverpool from a player's perspective. I mean, yeah, we don't focus on fun attacking fluid football. So the attackers have to defend a lot. They don't connect. I would imagine that it's not fun playing attacking football for Arsenal or playing an attack for Arsenal. I'm a football fan, love watching football attack. He might start Madueke left wing, Gyökeres up front, and Zubi, which would be good. All depends on the next 2 matches. I doubt it. But let's see. Like, if I was Arteta, that's what I would do, because what we're doing right now stinks, so at least you'll be offering different questions. When you bring in new players, it's except for Amorim. I feel like Amorim would have a little bit of a leg up there because he knows Gyökeres. But outside of that, other teams would have to play us differently because they would have different questions to answer, but they kind of know exactly what to do for us right now. And Thomas Frank showed them the blueprint. It's so easy. It's not hard to stop us from scoring a goal. You just have to basically stop Saka and sit in a mid block. That's it. And once you do that, it's over. It's over. Let's see. It won't happen, but Marino is much better up front than Kai. He's more technically proficient and a better finisher. Don't even get me started. Liverpool's football is superb. Like Arne Slot was saying that he has tactics, but he focuses more on vibes than anything. And Arteta is the exact opposite. He focuses on data, numbers, fine margins, but he's not focused on good attacking football vibes, letting the players, express themselves. He's the exact opposite of Slot, and it shows on the pitch. So, from a defensive standpoint, we may be better than them defensively, but they're going to outscore most of their opponents by 2 or 3 goals. So it's not going to matter. Arteta subbed in Gyökeres, and Arsenal proceeded to play as if Havertz was playing. I'm worried sick. How do we solve the mid to low block puzzle? If Mikel does not change his style of play, most of the teams will play like that. Well, this is why we needed to get these dribblers in, because I feel like one of the easiest, not the easiest ways, but if we want to beat mid blocks, low blocks, we need players that break down those blocks, game breakers, whatever, the types of players that get the ball and can dribble between the lines, make teams foul them, get between the lines, open up space for other players when they're in their settled blocks. When they do that, there's always space somewhere else. If they're crowded in the middle, there's space out wide. But what we tend to do is we take the obvious route, and that's where they want us to go. They don't want us to go central. If you force your way central by breaking down blocks by dribbling, you either get past them and open up the space in behind or out wide where they're not hoping that you're going, or you get fouled in the box, or in and around the box. You can take advantage of those situations. But we don't have that anymore. Without Gabriel Jesus, we really don't have a player that you can give the ball, can go past a couple of players. That means that other players have to come forward. That gives you space to do other things. Right now, basically what happens is we play right into the areas that they want us to. And because we're not particularly great at putting in good crosses and, just nicking the ball into the back of the net, we're really putting ourselves in a situation where they're kind of prepared for whatever we're going to do. And so without like an Eze or, a player of that type of caliber, or a Rodrigo out wide that can come central and break down a block, or a fit Gabriel Jesus, we're really at the mercy of like crosses and kicking it in. And when your striker is Kai Havertz, it's kind of done. He's just not the type of player that he's so easy to mark. I know that everybody says like his best like game feature is running into the box and making runs, but he's really one of the easiest players to mark in the box. He's just not going to get the ball in the back of the net. Like, he's just not that guy. We do play better in UCL teams attack, not all bad. Yeah, I mean, Champions League will do fine. But the Premier League, I really don't want to see us play well against Real Madrid or PSG and then turn around and not be able to beat Bournemouth. It's just not something that, to be honest, like at this stage, we should be worrying about. It's 2025, almost 2026. We're still talking about mid-low blocks. We need to move forward. Can I just be serious? I think we only get a left wing during January transfer window. Also, if Odegaard don't create more, he needs to be dropped. Well, you can't just have one player creating, and that's our main issue. If you shut down our right side, why is there no emphasis on the left-hand side having to do anything? They don't have to score goals, they don't have to create, they don't have to do anything. So, of course, if you have one player and that player also has to do build-up responsibilities because the left center mid doesn't do that, then what is the left center mid supposed to be doing, or the left wing? Because basically the only two players that are required to do anything are Saka and Odegaard. Nobody expects anything from Kai, Martinelli, or Rice. So not quite sure what we expect to do if three of our front five don't have any role or responsibility or anything. Because even when Saka or Odegaard give them the ball, they don't score. So, like, what are we saying here? Am I back? Hopefully, I'm back. I think I'm back. All right. I'm back. All right. Um, so yeah, sometimes it just goes out and I don't really know why. Let's see. I feel sorry for Saka. He carries the weight of this team. The doubling and tripling up on him stifles the attack, and it's the main strategy. Like literally nobody does anything on the left-hand side. There's no requirements for Havertz to do anything, for Martinelli to do anything, and even Rice to a certain extent, because he basically takes, I think I saw a stat that like Xhaka used to take like 75 touches a game. Like Rice takes like 30. And we know Rice is a good player, but ultimately you're losing so much creativity and so much, you're losing so much of like what you would do in the midfield when one of your players takes half the touches that the last player that played there was taking. So yes, Odegaard needs to do more. Yes, like we need to do, but I really do think that at a certain point, we've just given up on the left-hand side so much that we feel like two players are going to just carry an attack that is supposed to have three other players involved, and they're not involved. They're not involved unless the only thing I will say about Rice is that sometimes he'll just force the issue, which is a good thing. But if we get to the point where Rice is forcing the issue, it's usually because the attack is not actually performing. And I'd prefer our attack just to perform and not to have Rice having to try to save us, and that's pretty much all that we usually see. We saw him at the back end of the season. That's all he was really doing, was he would just take the ball and just try to make it work. And that's great. But when's the last time we see our attack just click? And I know that well, everybody was injured. Everybody was injured. I guarantee that this attack, if this is what we play going into the first couple games of the season, they'll find another way to switch it up. They'll blame it on a player or something like that. But ultimately, this attack is not good enough. That front five doesn't have anywhere near enough of what it needs. And to me, it mostly just hangs on that left wing and that center forward. They don't add shit to the team at all. I noticed the same thing when Max Dowman came on the right. They doubled and tripled up, and we did not take advantage of that. I mean, you just have to stop the right-hand side no matter who's there. It doesn't matter because they know we're not even going to attempt to give the ball to the left-hand side. I don't know how we are going to go into this next season with the left-hand side being broken again, because it's not going to work. I don't need to see it anymore. They don't need to be fit, nothing. It doesn't work. It does not work. So I'm not quite sure what we think is going to happen, but is tough, so but I just don't see Mikel even being like desperate to change up. He seems very content with it being that way, and it's just weird. Arteta's stubborn, but I can't see him seeing those stats of the second most time drawing and 21 points lost from winning positions and not put drastic plan into action. Well, why hasn't it started in preseason then? Because for the most part, of course, like the first 2 games went better. They still had we still weren't scoring and creating good chances ad nauseam like you should in preseason. Like in preseason, it should be easy, and it still felt hard to create chances and goals. And that was mostly because we were like switching it up and we had different players in at different times. So it wasn't as stiff. But as soon as we went to his default, it went right back. And then he sits up there in a press conference talking about he liked the way that we played. He's not gonna put a drastic anything. If he wanted drastic change, he would have made sure he brought in a left wing. If he wanted drastic change, Jokers would have started right away, no matter what. If he wanted drastic change, we wouldn't be seeing the horseshoe. He doesn't want drastic change. He's not gonna change. The man is, I don't know what's wrong with him, but he doesn't wanna change. And we're gonna be in even more trouble if what I've seen from our set pieces is what we're gonna get, because I would not be surprised if our set piece is dried up. I don't know what Yover is doing, but they're no longer dangerous. They've clocked us. Like, without our set pieces, we could be in trouble. Last time we actually clicked was 2 years ago during that run. Mikel literally stifled the team. That's the last time we looked good, for sure, was at the back end of 2024, or actually the beginning of 2024. January through May. That was the last time that we looked like a title contending team. That's a long time for a team not to look good, from at least from an attacking standpoint, and clicking on all cylinders. So let's see how it goes. This team is still too defensive minded. I agree. Fact, seeing Rice at left wing channels at times is frustrating. There's nobody puts any emphasis on the left-hand side having to contribute in any significant way. It's just they expect 1 or 2 players to just carry everything. And I think because people have given up on the left-hand side, they're just focused on the right, and they're like, well, then that needs to change. And I'm like, well, the right wouldn't have to change if the left actually contributed. Nobody had a problem with the right-hand side until the left-hand side died. Like, I do not understand. Between Rice and our left wing options, it's not going to work. Anybody with like clear eye vision can see that. Like, it's just the left wing has to change. But that's where Noni comes in, I feel. And it's gotten so bad that I feel like Arsenal fans are starting to do copium with Nani. And I actually don't blame them for doing that. I think it's a normal fan reaction to have a player in your team that you want to see do well, especially, when you're starting to realize that, okay, he is probably going to be the winger signing. I'd be very, very surprised if we brought anybody else in this window. I think Arsenal, we're probably a couple, like maybe a week away from the Ornstein. I don't expect any more incomings for Arsenal. They're focused on outgoings. Like, they're not really looking to bring anybody else in. They're okay. Like, I don't actually think that Arsenal are desperate to bring in anyone else. So that would mean that Nani is the wing signing. And so people want to see him on the left. I do think Arteta needs to go ahead and start him on the left. You spent 50 million on him, and guess what? Your other 2 left wing options are ass. Like, they're just so average and so lackluster, and so like you're just pretty much swapping one average thing for the next. The only, I think, plus side of Trossard is that he scores goals in clutch moments, but outside of that, he lacks a lot. He's not very dynamic. He's not really fast. He's, technically he goes up and down with his technical security. So yeah, and Martinelli is what he is. So you're going to have to put all your eggs into that Noni basket and hope that he is an upgrade and a game changer, because he actually cannot be just another option. We can't just shuffle the deck and with the 3 options and be like, okay, which option are we going to go with? I think he has to be leaps and bounds above what Martinelli and Trossard are. So he's probably going to have to start with Nani on the left. And I don't see any reason why you wouldn't, because he's played in the Premier League before. So there is no adaptation period that needs to be had. You need to stop being scared and start putting these players out there, because you don't have time to waste on Martinelli and Trossard anymore. You've seen what they can give you. Martinelli's not going to improve. He's not going to improve from here. He is what he is. He is at his station. So just start Nani and hope that he gives you something different. Trossard is a proper player, just lacks speed or burst. Trossard is a good player to have around the team. Like, if I had my choice and I didn't have to think about age or anything, I'd actually get rid of Martinelli, because I actually think when you're looking for something off the bench, most of the time we're looking for goals, and the only player that I trust to bring goals off of the bench is Trossard. And so I would keep Trossard over Martinelli, but I actually think Trossard is also an easier sell than Martinelli. There's nobody wants Martinelli. Like, the fact that nobody has ever tried to take him from us or, anything, I think speaks volumes, So he's a young player that could go play in a different league, or nobody's even tested the waters really, except for like Saudi kind of. So yeah, I would definitely keep Trossard over Martinelli. But, if bringing in another player rested on one of the left wings leaving, and Trossard is the only one with any sort of like interest, which is kind of what's the truth right now, then Trossard would have to go. But I don't even think Arteta or Arsenal are desperate to bring in another player. If they were, they'd bring them in regardless. So yeah, Trossard is a good player. He's just, he's not the answer for, he's not equal to Saka. And I think that's kind of where we're at right now, is because Martinelli's decline has been so steep, we no longer have somebody on the other side of Saka that kind of equals his input levels from a just natural gameplay, just without GA and with GA. At a certain point, Martinelli was kind of at the same kind of like station as Saka. So much so that I remember sitting up on shows and people were saying that Martinelli had a higher ceiling. And then it's gone down a lot. And so it's pretty much just Saka, and Martinelli sticks out like a sore thumb. So, Nani, I do feel like has to come in and get to a place where we don't feel like we're looking at the left as like that ugly stepchild. I think right now we look at the left and we're like, oh, Saka's like way better. Nobody's going to be as good as Saka, but we need to feel like at least they're holding their weight. And right now they're not holding their weight. He would have just sold sooner is all. Let's see. All of our attackers have regressed under Arteta. All of them. I expect the same to happen to Gyökeres. To be honest, why not keep Reece Nelson? We should be starting Madueke on the left. Then Jan open. Then we get a left wing. Alvin, we don't buy serious players in January. Like, if you think we're going to get a left wing in January, then, know your club. Your club is, we've spent 200 million. They're when we go into January window, they're going to be talking about they're fine with their options. We're not going to buy anybody. And the only reason why people are even considering keeping Reece Nelson is because Martinelli is so bad that they've convinced themselves that Reece Nelson is decent. And that's how bad Martinelli actually is, that people are revising history on Reece Nelson. Every time Reece Nelson has played for us, he's outside of the Bournemouth goal. Take the Bournemouth goal out, which is a moment in time and is not congruent with who he's been at Arsenal. He is a player that has energy or is bright, but never has end product or what we need. So, and he's also injury prone. So just because Martinelli is so bad that he makes Reece Nelson look good does not mean Reece Nelson should stay. We really, really need to lift the levels. I actually think that, we're so used to looking at Martinelli that we've convinced ourselves that he's like, our attack is fine, but no, sorry, he's not good. This Martinelli hate is insanity. Some people do not know football. Well, fair enough. If you think Martinelli is the answer, then good for you. But I'm totally okay with not knowing football if not knowing football means that, Martinelli is not good enough for Arsenal, because that's where I sit. He's not good enough. Like, he's just not. Let's see. That Man United game, we will huff and puff and get carved apart on the counter. It's so obvious what's going to happen. And if we do score, it'll be on a set piece. This starting 11 cannot run in the beginning of the season. We are going to get, it's going to get dark. Because, if we don't beat Manchester United on the first game of the season, media is going to be on us. And also the fans are going to shit the bed. In preseason, you already saw a preview of what that's going to be like when we lost to Tottenham. So that's what I'm saying. Arteta needs to get all the way fucking for real. Just drop Havertz and Martinelli. I think fans could stomach not struggling a little bit or not looking great with new players, but if we struggle with players that we already know are not good enough, it's like a crime, so yeah. Let's see. Fan outrage after the loss to Man United is going to be crazy. It's going to get dark. Zubi is not getting overwhelmed. You're lying to yourself. Yes, just stop being negative. Martinelli is exactly what we need. Exactly. It's just, I don't know what it is about this player where people are still trying to convince themselves that because he's good defensively, that he's good enough. He's just not. I just ask yourself a simple question. Where does he rank in terms of left wingers in the league? Where does he rank? Do you actually think he's better than some of these other players? At a certain point, I thought he was maybe the second best winger, left winger. But as time has gone on, it's is he even better than Matoma? It's, damn. The problem is we have square pegs and round holes. Rice is not a left 8. Havertz is not a striker. And Odegaard's not a 10. But Odegaard doesn't even play 10. So that doesn't even make sense. The fact that actually the problem with Odegaard is he hasn't played in the 10 role for 2 seasons, and people still think he's playing in the 10 role, and he's not. We don't play with a 10. We play with 2 8s. We play with no 10 whatsoever. Odegaard's pass map, his heat map, is not what a 10 would be. He's not in the center. He's not in that area in front. He's actually plays deeper than the left 8. And that's why so many people are confused about why is Odegaard not as creative as he used to be, is because he's not playing in the 10 and you haven't clocked it yet. He can't play in the 10 because he needs to help with build up, because the left center mid is it's like a ghost. And that's not even because Rice is not a top player. He is a top player, but he's not playing in a position that suits him. So I kind of agree with the square pegs and round holes, but anybody who still thinks Odegaard is playing the 10 needs to wake up. You need to wake up, and quickly. He does not play the 10. The way that he played when Xhaka was playing with us is completely different. It's completely different. And as long as the left center mid is a figment of our imagination, he will not play in the 10 role. He won't. Hello? Because whether it's not even just Rice either. Even when Marino plays there, he's not involved in anything outside of ghosting into the box. It's weird. Arteta misplaces our players a lot. Exactly. Even Liverpool, if they get Isak, they have some depth questions, solve the attack. And the thing is people will still try to downplay Rice, but you have to ask yourself a simple question. If you don't like Rice and you don't think he's good in the 8, how is he still player of the season quality, getting voted into, team of the season? Is because despite Arteta's use of him, he's still able to succeed with even not playing in a position that suits him as well as it could. And I think that's the thing with it's not that we can't function at all with Kai at striker and, Rice at left center mid. It's that the ceiling is clearly there. And we could probably just go an extra 5% if Arteta just dropped Rice a little bit deeper and just put Havertz on the bench. But we don't do that. So as much as people want to force Rice is not as good as we thought he is or whatever, he still ends up being on lists of the best midfielders in the world. He still created more chances than like anybody else in that position because he's so good. He just needs to be dropped a little bit more so we can get 5% more out of him. 5% more out of all of our players, by the way, wins us the league. It's, come on. Our fullbacks don't overlap in their lack of creativity on the left-hand side, which makes it more difficult for Martinelli. I think Martinelli's best position is up front. I wouldn't surprise a new system. Well, if Arteta's never used Martinelli up front up until this point, and he's preferred midfielders up front, he's preferred Trossard, Kai Havertz, and Marino up until this stage, and the only time where he even considered him was in the last game of the season, then I would say that it's pretty much a 0.0000001% chance that Arteta is going to change his system for Martinelli to play up front. And to me, Martinelli is just he can play as a wide forward. He can play as a left wing, but every left wing doesn't have the same qualities. Trossard, if we have our 3 left wings are Martinelli, Trossard, and Madueke, every single one of them are incredibly different, but they can all play left wing, and that's because you can have different qualities and still play the same position. Martinelli, for me, is somebody that desperately needs to be central and more in central areas and closer into the box. The closer he is to the touchline, the worse he becomes. And if he cannot play off of the shoulder and he's not getting into space, he's really ineffective. And that's more of the problem with Martinelli. Now he's an incredibly limited player, which makes him even more difficult to. It makes it harder to justify him in our team at all because he's so limited. But I think a better manager or somebody that is different than Arteta would at least try to platform him better. But it's just even if his best position is up front, Arteta's never tried it outside of like 1 or 2 times. He's basically ruled it out. Arteta watched ESR play his best season with us at left wing and then turned around the next season and said, I don't think that's his best position. If he doesn't make it at 8, he's not going to make it here. So Martinelli is the biggest conundrum at this club right now because he's a player that's often pushed into a starting position, but the manager doesn't put him into positions to thrive, and we're left with our eyeballs bleeding. So I don't know. I don't get it, because if it was me and Arteta's like, okay, this player, is not as successful in this way, I'd be desperate to get somebody else in. But Arteta seems kind of okay with having him around, but also doesn't want to put him in positions to thrive, so I don't really get it. Let's see. Our biggest issue is Havertz. I actually disagree. I actually disagree. And that's probably going to come as a surprise because I do not rate Havertz at all. I actually think, he has, just that signing alone has started a domino effect that has just, I don't know, it's poisoned us. But Havertz, to me, is less of a problem than Martinelli because at least Havertz is functional, and at least Havertz at a certain stage is effective. I think Martinelli has gone past the point of being able to be called like usable and effective in a consistent basis. At the bare minimum, I know I'm gonna get like with Havertz, I know he's gonna be able to work with Saka. I know he's gonna score like maybe a couple goals. I kind of know what I'm getting. With Martinelli, what we're getting at the bare core, I don't even think is like functional. I really think it's really bad, so Havertz is an issue, but actually Martinelli is worse. I actually think if you put Gyökeres up there and put Martinelli, I think you can make an argument where if you had just brought in, like, let's say you got Rodrigo, I know he's not an option. Let's say Leao, you had Leao, Havertz, and Saka. Leao, Havertz, and Saka is probably better than Saka, Gyökeres, and Martinelli because the left-hand side is still dead. Yeah, but I don't know. But this is probably what we'll start off with at the beginning of the season, so we'll see. Are you convinced Norgard is starting? I'm getting a sneaky suspicion that Norgard will start the season. Let's see what happens tomorrow, but my alarm bells were ringing when he started in the game against Spurs because Arteta did start with his starting lineup, and he was a part of it, and Zubimendi was not injured because he came in later on in the game. Unless they were just trying to, it was like a fitness thing, I'm concerned that he's going to start with Norgard because he's Prem proven. Because Arteta, I don't know, he's a scared guy. Used to be functional until he decided to get the smart idea of bulking up. Who gave that guy the genius idea? I have no idea why Havertz is not as good bigger. I think he looks like, I think he was better when he was skinnier, marginally, but I don't know what the bulking up is about. Football is the one sport I would say that I think being agile, flexible, and being able to move is better than being bigger and bulkier. Um, I don't think players should get bulkier. I actually think Saka was a little bit more agile and, with his movements. Saka was always strong. He's made of fucking vibranium. The guy is like, he's a strong guy. But when he got a little bit bigger, I think he got stiffer, which I don't think helps him as much. But as a rule of thumb, for me, when footballers get bulkier, they get worse. So I don't know why he did that, but yeah. I think you need to, be able to move a little bit more, but maybe that's just me. At this point, I won't be surprised if Arteta starts Havertz at left back just to keep him in the team. It's also not it's not gone over my head that a lot of like the media pictures, covers of things have been Havertz. Yeah. He's definitely somebody that the club really likes, but I'm not quite sure if it has anything to do with his level of play. So, yeah, we're going to ball with Madueke. He has to ball though. Like, I think that's the thing is he has to ball. Like, I'm all for the copium, but it does not change the fact that there's pressure on that signing to do well. It's not even like if he does well that we can give all this credit or whatever. It's like he has to. You literally have banked our season. We needed 2 attackers. You needed 2 level raisers. You bought Gyökeres, which is great, but we already know it's going to take you time to like get over Havertz because you're a weirdo. So the left wing was really, really important. And you didn't get a left winger, you got a right winger. And now we're meant to believe that he's going to be some Sane Rafinha type of player. And we never really saw that level of play at Chelsea. So it feels like a project and it feels like a risk. But it has to work. So like, what I'm not gonna allow happen, at least on this channel, is for the goalposts to be moved like they were with Havertz. Havertz was so bad at the beginning that now that he's serviceable, people are acting like it was a successful signing. It was not a successful signing. It is a signing that we make work. Marino is also a signing that I feel like falls in that category of players that are serviceable and we're making work, but we're ultimately sideways moves. They have not made us any better. You know, in fact, we're having to replace in those positions again, or we're looking to replace in those positions because those two positions have needed upgrading for a while, and we keep missing the mark, keep missing the mark, keep missing the mark. So, you know, it's just because somebody starts off badly and gets to a serviceable spot does not mean that it was a good signing. It's just we made it work. With Madueke, the remit for that position is for him to be much better than Martinelli and Trossard and to be a level raiser in that attack. That's it. They described him as a tier 1 player, a starter. So you've risked our season on a player that doesn't play in this position and has never played at that level, but you think that he can be that. So that's the only way that that signing is a good signing, is if, and that's where I'm keeping my standard at for him, because the goalposts were moved with Havertz. They were. Because he was serviceable, then people were like, "See, I told you so." And it was like, "You told me what? We still need a striker. Like, we still need a left center mid. Like, nothing has changed. You just have another player that's expensive, that's different, but doesn't make us any better." So, Madueke, the standard is he needs to be much better than Martinelli and Trossard. It should not even be a question if he should start or not. That's the only way that signing is a good signing, period. Like, I don't expect him to, I mean, I know some people are like, "It'll only be a good signing if we win something." I hear that, you know, but there is a world where those players are much better and we get much better and we still miss out on things. So, yeah, but that's the only way. That's it. Yep, they are ready. They had a good workout against Tottenham. If United gets Sesko, I think they would have outspent us. I mean, I guess you can make an argument that they needed to outspend everyone because they finished in 17th or 16th or something like that. And they missed out on Champions League. So, but I do think it also shows that if you want to, you can improve your whole entire attack in one window. We've seen multiple teams do it before, but Arsenal are afraid to push the bar when it comes to their attack, and that's ultimately what will always keep them back. Is you actually don't need to be like, okay, well, maybe we'll get, you know, how many windows have we gone without improving our attack, and we still have questions around whether or not we've done enough in this window. Arsenal probably feel like they've done enough, but they're just so okay with the options that they have. And I'll never understand a team that is desperate to have all these great defensive options and can find defensive gems, and will, even if they fuck up over and over again, they buy Kivior, then the next window they turn around and they buy Calafiori, then the next window they turn around and buy Mascara. But they don't have that same like emphasis in attack, but their attack is actually way worse than their defense. So I've never seen a club like this before. They're so backwards, but United and Chelsea have shown that even Liverpool, if they do end up getting Isak, that you can revitalize your attack in one window, and Arsenal are choosing not to do it. It's not, they're choosing not to. Like, I don't know why people are acting like, yeah, but you have Trossard and Martinelli, so you know they one of them has to go. No, they don't. No, they don't. No, they don't. If they wanted to, they would. Like, the Kroenkes would make that money available today. They don't have PSR problems. Remember, they keep flaunting that in our face. No PSR problems. Oh, we made the most money that we've made in a long time. La, 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 la. One of the most profitable clubs. If they wanted to, they would. They just don't want to. They don't feel like it's important. I'm an Arsenal fan, not an Arteta fan. Calafiori isn't on the depth chart, and upset. I didn't even. There's no reason to put him on there. Like I like Calafiore. He's a talented player, but he's a sick note. The fact that he couldn't even get through this preseason is pretty concerning. And he wasn't even in training. Like Saka got injured, but he is obviously in training. He's injured. His knee is full of fluid. That actually happened to Gabriel Jesus. It took him a long time to come back. It's really painful. I like him, but there's no reason to like tiptoe around it. He's just not a player that we're going to be able to rely upon. Once you're injury prone, it is what it is. Zinchenko is not going anywhere, and neither is Kivior, most likely because we know we cannot rely upon Calafiore. It's dark. And again, this is another reason why we can't move past improving the back line. It's everybody on that side, like Zinchenko and Calafiore, they don't even add up to one player. Like they're so injury prone because Zinchenko is always injured as well. The problem is that we keep getting seconds, so everyone gasses Arteta and he feels like he's better, that he's doing the right thing. This is his first job after all. If they haven't made us better, it is on the manager. Arteta is the issue. We should take our frustration out on Arteta and Edu. Liverpool will go about 95 points next season and will win the league by 10 points minimum. Arsenal will get about 85 points. I mean, I do think Liverpool will just easily outscore all of their opposition. Their attack is they could probably score 100 goals. They're just not the type of team that ever has to worry about scoring goals. They have goals coming out the wazoo. So even if they have a shaky defense, they'll just win the game 4-1. And we don't have that luxury. We have to keep the game tight because we'll probably only score 1 or 2 goals. So yeah, yeah. When you watch them play, they are definitely a team that scores easily, and we don't. And as much as we want to flaunt a good defense, we still know we're pretty reliable for a fuck up as well. That is still a consistent thing. The individual error is still there. So yeah. Oh yeah, we haven't even broken 90 points. We really haven't. So, and that was with us being perfect at the second half of the season. So let's see how it goes. But actually think that our problem is still not going to be the bigger games. I think that top 6 record that we've had is definitely getting broken this season. We're going to lose to somebody for sure. But we'll probably still be able to nick points here and there from our rivals by keeping it close. And, maybe they won't play in deep blocks against us, blah, blah, blah. But we're still going to struggle with the mid-table teams. We're going to struggle with them if we don't change the way that we play and attack. It feels like this window, whilst adding depth, has not actually raised the level of this team. I'm very concerned about our chances in all comps. I mean, how many windows have we gone by? Like, this is our second window of doing the floor signings. Gyökeres will only be a level raiser for us if Arteta just gets rid of this idea of Havertz and just lets the ego down and just lets it go and fully buys into whatever Gyökeres needs, Gyökeres gets. That is the only way that Gyökeres will be a level raiser, or he'll struggle in this team with us playing him the same way that Havertz plays with us, which it's like he needs to be fed. Like he is a number 9, and we look weird with a number 9 in our team. It's like seeing Gyökeres in the team. I don't actually think this team knows or remembers what it feels like to have a number 9, because none of them played with Aubameyang. And if they did, they played with him when he was playing on the wing. So this team is going to need to kind of like recalibrate what it feels like to play with a striker. And Arteta needs to buy into it 100%. Gyökeres can be a level raiser for us, but it's only going to be limited by Arteta and the way that he has the team, support him. He needs that bad. Let's see. Are the players not good enough to adapt and not improving, and we need to upgrade on them, or just simply Mikel's tactics and we need to get a new manager? I mean, you guys can answer that question. I think it's different for other players, but We do need better no matter what, you always should improve your players. I don't think there was ever a time where these players didn't need to be improved upon because ultimately they're not the best, so it's like you're always going to need better players, right? But I think there's just a clear point where the attack went down, and that was the season where we bought Havertz and Rice and Raya and Timber, and we started to play a different style in attack altogether. And to me, that's more about Mikel's tactics than anything else, because I've seen Saka score a hat trick before. He's never scored a hat trick for Arsenal, but he scored one for England. I've seen, Odegaard be the top assist person in World Cup qualifiers with Holland as his striker. I've seen them play better in this particular team, but in a different tactical setup. Martinelli looks better with Brazil. I do think a lot of it is the tactics, because we've seen them play better with us, and we've also seen them play better in other places. So I don't know, but you still need to always improve upon your players. I think there's a world where both things can be true at the same time, where Arteta's not getting the most out of the group, but the group also needs to be improved. I don't think it's that easy to answer that question, because at a certain point, I thought Arteta was getting the most out of this group, and he was making some players look not a lot better, but he was making them look better with his tactics. I think he's doing the opposite now. We have amazing players now. You can't, amazing players, man. You can't convince me that this is not a manager problem. Let's see. It feels like we all have Arteta fatigue. I definitely know I have Arteta fatigue, and I'm not afraid to say it, because I'm also not afraid for people to be like, "Oh, you're negative, you're this." Like, I don't care. Like, you guys can do whatever you want to do. I'm tired. I'm tired of this, so because I'm tired of looking at the same thing over and over again, because I know the man's not going to change. Whatever we've done that's done well, he's changed it. But whatever we're not doing well, he doubles down. And he's just the weirdest guy on the planet. And sometimes you just need to see something different. So, yeah. Let's see. Yeah, I'm really out here just hoping that Nani becomes a world beater overnight. It's crazy. We scored less goals last season. Well, I think the caveat or the devil's advocate is that we had so many injuries, but I kind of think no matter what, we probably would have scored less goals. I just don't think we have the answers to break down mid to low blocks, and every single team outside of the top 6 does that to us. You have Fulham and Bournemouth and Everton, all these teams, they all do the same thing against us, and it works every single time. So whether we had all of our players or not, what big of a difference would that have made? It's not just about injuries. It's we do not have the answers. How am I already tired of the season? Shit hasn't even started. That's because we never have a clean break from one season to the next, because nothing changes from one season to the next. We look at the same team, the same tactics, the same vibe. The next time we'll feel excited for a new season is when we have a new manager, because they don't do enough in the summer window to make it feel like we're doing something different ever. One moment Arteta is the most unorthodox genius, the other he's the biggest fraud on the planet. I will tell you after these first 10 games if we will win the league or not. It might take one game, though. Robbie said Arsenal want Fermin. Is this true? If so, would you take him? I'll be honest, I feel like Robbie and AFTV, they latch on to the most obscure of links. The most obscure of links ever. I don't see anything about that. it comes from, like, these team talks and Steve K and these guys, and no offense to them, but they're never right about anything, and I think they just make things up, so, yeah. Yeah, I don't see, like, literally anything about that, so, kinda feels like they made it up, uh, but I also just don't think that Arsenal are desperate to bring in an attacking player, that they don't, you know, I don't know. Yeah, they don't, yeah. Uh, I saw Deluded talking about Chouameni the other day, and I was like, "Come on now." Jess, did you know Gyökeres' name means rooted? I guess that means we are rooted in second place yet again. I'm tired of talking about the players, to be honest. Fans are never honest about players because they become fans of the players. I'll take anyone over Martinelli right now. Ketchup sources. Robbie is just making content. Yeah, we're not getting Fermin Lopez. They don't want to bring in this type of player. Arteta does not like he doesn't like these types of players. Like, his idea of midfielders and forwards are good defenders and slow box crashers. Like, Arteta is the antithesis of, and like, he's just, yeah. When you make me miss Arson, despite how I felt about him when he left, then you're lost. Even if we win an FA Cup or a Carabao Cup, that doesn't excuse the 1 billion Premier League, Champions League, or get the sack. How is your dog doing? He's okay. He's a little rattled about this cone on his head. Let me look at it real quick. I don't trust you. Come down here. Yeah, he's rattled about this cone on his head. So he's I need to get him a smaller one because he's really small and the cone is huge. So I need to get him a smaller one today. Um so he can move around, but he's like very rattled about this cone. Like, he won't walk or anything, like he's just standing there. I think he's fine in terms of like the surgery. It's the cone. Like, he's like, what is this on my head? So yeah, he's rattled. Give Pep this team and he wins everything. Haha, he got the cone of shame. Yeah, it's really bad. I feel bad for him. I really do. But it's like, it is what it is. Furman would actually suit Arsenal extremely well. I mean, there's a lot of players that would suit us well if we just played good attacking football. Arteta likes defenders in attack. How Arteta doesn't like aesthetic players when he was working with Pep at City and also played with Ronaldinho, because prevalent, the most prevalent influence that comes out from Arteta is Moyes and then Pep. He gets nothing from Arsene except from his stubbornness, which is unfortunate, So Arteta is a defensive manager that stumbled upon good attacking football one season. So, yeah, Arteta talks about connecting with fans, but plays boring football. Does that mean he thinks Arsenal fans are boring? No, I think like he has this thing where I feel like his version of good football is like suffering. He's always talking about like we have to suffer together, and everything is hard. So I don't. It's all about stats and data and working hard and suffering, and he forgot that Arsenal is also about beautiful football, and he's lost that. He's lost that. He's done. Like, he loves the suffering. And the players talk about it a lot too. They talk about the suffering and working together and all that, but I would love to just ask them on the side, like, I won't tell anybody, but like, do you literally hate the way that we play? Like, do you have fun? I will imagine that they're not having fun. They're doing it because they have to, and they've been told that this is the way that they're gonna win things, but The proof is in the pudding. You win by playing good attacking football. Liverpool, Barcelona, PSG, those are the standards right now. All three of those teams are the best teams in the world, and they all play good attacking football. No jogo de posición, no high emphasis on corners, no throw in routines, no bullshit. They just play good attacking football. But Arteta thinks suffer and struggle is the way that we're going to win things. Also, his signings are pretty much yes men, no football ego, no spine. Banger Ball was better than this. Saka Light wouldn't be gone from his eyes if they were at least playing good hoops. Do you say the sparkle is gone from his eyes? Damn. Wenger Ball spoiled us. Arteta Haram Ball ruined my mental health last season. I can't watch it again this season. Hold on, I'm sorry. I know it's like so many interruptions, but I need to get this. I need to get him. Back up. Where is he? Back up. I don't see him. They're driving me fucking crazy. They're driving me nuts. Let's see. I'm okay with not winning anything if the football is entertaining, to be honest. We aren't winning shit and the football is ass. Come in here. Come in. Stop it. 22-23 was actually a joy to watch. If we can get back to the balance, then I would be happy. What's the likelihood of us getting back to that? I don't think Arteta wants to get back to that. I think that's the problem. I think the next time we'll play good attacking football is when Arteta's gone. I think he's too deep into this style and he thinks it's working. And so yeah. And I think also it's like as good as we are supposed to be off the ball, I still find us to be a little bit fragile in moments where we need to be good off the ball. It's like I would just I would do anything to go back to 22-23 and just stop him and say like you don't have to give this up. You don't have to go way to the other direction. Just get a couple of better defenders, bring in Timber, bring in a better goalkeeper and just add a striker, another attacker, blah blah. Don't change everything. He's changed it all. And I just wonder, you know, I don't think he can go back to 22-23, guys. I think if he wanted to, he would. Tommy said you're starting Norgard over Zubi. No, Arteta is. Arteta started Norgard over Zubamendi against Spurs and played him for 60, 70 minutes. You know, Zubi only played like 20 minutes of that game, maybe max. So I'm just going by what Arteta did, you know. So if he doesn't start Zubamendi tomorrow, then I'll start to get really worried. But this is essentially the hand that he played against Spurs, which I would imagine he would consider his biggest test. And he played this team minus Gabriel for 70 minutes. So it's his 6th season. He must deliver a leave. That's crazy. We've been with him for 6 seasons. That's insane. Arteta can't play the same style we played last season with Zubamendi and Gyökeres. They keep saying he wants to change the way that we play, but I don't believe him. I'll believe it when I see a different style of football where he literally takes what we've been doing and just chucks it in the trash like he did what we were doing in 22-23 and what we were doing at the back end of 23-24. Like, that's when I'll believe it, you know. And Arteta wants something to change. He does it, and it's, like, harsh. I didn't see enough change in the preseason games. I don't know. Did you guys see change in the preseason games? Take away the Spurs game. But before that, against AC Milan and against Newcastle, did you feel like the way that we were playing was different? I want to know from your guys' perspective. As some people were saying that, well, the Spurs game doesn't matter because we looked so different against AC Milan and Newcastle. And I was like, I don't know if I felt like it was that different. I do think that because you had different players out there and different combinations, it was different. But ultimately, once he went back to his tried and true, it looked pretty similar to how it always looks. That's why I'm so worried. Yeah, the way that we played was different. Want to know how? Sure, tell me. I didn't see any change. The first 2 games, I think Zubi changed the way that we play. That's why he has to start the games, and you need to pull the Band-Aid off. Don't go with Norgard because you're scared because Zuby hasn't played at this level and he has all the la la la. I don't give a fuck. I really don't. And I want us to prioritize what we're going to do on the ball to hurt other teams more than trying to stifle what the other team is trying to do. Too much of the way that we play is based upon, well, if we lose it, what's going to happen? If we lose it, oh my gosh, if we lose it, they're going to do this. Why don't we just focus on what the fuck we're going to do with the ball? If we focused a lot on how we played with the ball, so many things would be different. But I think he chooses certain players and certain ways of play based upon he's so scared about what's going to happen when the other team gets the ball. And it's like, fuck. I mean, we concede anyway. Fuck. We concede anyway. When we get lose the ball on a counterattack, I swear at a certain point last season, it became a 50-50 chance. If they won that ball and they got beyond party, it was a 50-50 chance that they would score. So who cares? Our game was different until he used his original starting 11 against Spurs. I agree with that. It's preseason though, so we let it cook. We played differently because we only went down the right wing 70% of the time instead of 90% of the time, and Havertz stopped providing utility as a front man, so it's kind of worse all around. Excuse me. Yeah, I hear that. It didn't feel as one-sided, but it's just weird. Arteta opted to go with like Marino, Zubi, Ethan, and then Rice, Odegaard, Norgard type of vibe. And then like Zubimendi and Rice and Odegaard would play together for like 2 minutes. I don't know what the vibe is with that and why he's so desperate to replicate the Sociedad midfield, but yeah, no. Very strange. I want to be excited for the season, you guys. I'm trying to get some hopium, but I haven't seen enough in preseason to get me, going. It felt like we played less games as well. I don't know if that's true, but we played the 3 games. It didn't feel, you know what it was? I think what it was with these games, because we didn't play teams that were like where we could just kind of go through the gears and it was more competitive because we were playing up against rivals. It was very start and stop. And so it doesn't feel like there was a lot of like things to look at, especially the Spurs and the Newcastle game. It was just so start and stop, start and stop, start and stop, because they were fouling so much. And then it was weirdly had to be competitive and it was just weird, so it doesn't feel like we got as much through this preseason. Arteta probably thinks he got a lot through the preseason, but I genuinely feel like preseason should be very low stakes. It should be us playing. We played in Asia and didn't play a single Asian team. Go look at Barcelona's preseason. That is a proper preseason. No big teams, just bullshit, just playing against Asian teams and just working on themselves. We had to suffer. And I just goes back to Arteta loving to suffer. So, yeah. I mean, you're going to get hope if start good anyway. I mean, we have to actually start good. We have such a difficult start to the season. I know we're going to drop points. It's just a matter of how many are we going to drop. Same with Liverpool. Why are we playing EPL teams? I think Liverpool played like AC Milan, right? And then they played a couple of La Liga teams, right? Let's look. Let's see. They played Stoke, Preston. So they played Preston, Stoke, AC Milan, Yokohama, Athletic Bilbao twice, and that's it. Because they play the Community Shield in 5 days against Crystal Palace. So, yeah, that's a proper preseason. Low stakes. They battered Stoke, they battered Preston, they battered Yokohama. They had a closer game against Athletic Bilbao in the second game, but they battered them in the first game. But they've played more games than us. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we'll play 5. So it's about the same, but we're too desperate to play competitive games against Premier League teams. And I saw somebody was like, but we have to see how we measure up against the rivals and stuff. I was like, no, we don't. We don't need to see that shit. We know what we are at the top of we're at the top of the ladder. When we were like, 8th, we needed to see what we were going to look like up against the better teams. We don't need to see that shit anymore. That's for teams that are trying to climb. We don't need that. We just need to work on ourselves, you know? Uh, but yeah, let's see. Arteta needs to play Zubamendi, Rice, and Odegaard together so that they have chemistry between them. Yeah, well, tell him that. Let's see. Didn't they play Bournemouth? I don't see Bournemouth on here. I think Man United play Bournemouth. So, hold on, guys. Let me blow my nose real quick. I need to do this off camera, so give me 2 seconds. Sorry, I needed to blow my nose. I'm still trying to get over this cold, so yeah. That September month with Liverpool, last day of August. I mean, it's tough. Our season is starting off in a way. I mean, the Prem wanted to make sure that they got sacking talks at the very beginning of the season because to me, this is just not random. I'm so sorry. I know that, they said, it's just random by the computer, but ain't no way that this was random. They wanted to make sure that they got the biggest fixture on the first game of the season because their numbers are down. So Man United away, and then we have Liverpool. Forest is going to be a difficult game. Even at home, they're a European side. Man City, Newcastle will, like West Ham is no longer an easy game for us. Fulham is not an easy game for us anymore. Crystal Palace, it's looking dark. Like we really need to be ready to go. And I'm not 100% sure we are. I want to believe that we are, but I need to feel in these next 2 games that we're scoring goals easily. And yeah, it's crazy. I think this will be the most entertaining Premier League season though, except the Arsenal games. We don't play good football, so no, the only reason our games will be exciting is if other teams are beating us. If Odegaard house ever got broken into, his wife and child are doomed. That brother is cutting and running and leaving his family there. You guys hate Odegaard so much, and I don't really understand it. Let's not make it personal against players. Allow it. They hate him more than they hate other people, and it's just weird to me. We brought in 6 players playing this big game that's friendly was important. Yeah, our fixture setup looks impossible. Prediction for tomorrow's game. I don't even know I don't even know. I don't. I would just say like outside of actually winning the game, my prediction, I do think he's going to start with some version of this. I'll be honest. I think he's going to start with some version of this. Jokeris and Noni on the bench. And maybe we win like 2-1 or something like that. Just this team does not score goals easily and struggles so much to just whoop teams' asses. They don't have it, so I don't know. I really don't know what to expect because after the Spurs game, I just expect us to look like this now. Let's see, over under 10 minutes for Ethan. Oh, just about over, maybe last 20. 20 minutes for Ethan. I'll tell you what, if he needs to start Jokeris, I know he won't because he's just so fucking hard-headed, but start Jokeris, start Noni. We know what Havertz and Martinelli are. We don't need to see more of them. What do you need to see? They don't work well together. They're both gonna just pass it backwards, sideways, whatever. They're both clumsy. Like, who cares? More, just play the players that are new. Give the Emirates an opportunity to see something that they haven't seen. I think that's another thing is just the element of like fans feeling like it's a new season because there's new players out there. Nobody's feeling like it's a new season if they're watching Havertz and Martinelli again. Like, come on, man. Like, just at least in preseason. But that's the thing, it's like it's preseason. Try something new. They don't need to practice playing with each other anymore. They've like literally Havertz and Martinelli have been starters for the last 2 seasons together. They know. They know. They know. Like, I'm telling you, Saka, Odegaard, and Ben White, they know how to play with each other. They've been playing with each other for 4 years. Like that group right there, they've played together for 4 years. They know how to play with each other. Like Havertz and Martinelli, they've played together for years now. Like, they don't need to know how to play with each other. The players that need more time together to be integrated in are the players that haven't played with us. So play with them. Come on. Damn, I know it's not a 10 out of 10 window, but did a lot that must count for something. Look like a mini rebuild to me. It depends on what you think or what we needed at the beginning of the window. I think once we got Jokeris done, I think there was still an element for a lot of fans where it felt unfinished, and it still feels unfinished for me because there's a huge question mark around Noni. And if Noni was not Noni and Noni was, let's say, like just for sake of argument, I know he's not leaving, but if Noni was Rodrigo, I think we'd rest easy. I think it'd be like, okay, we bought a level raiser on the left and we bought a striker. But the Nani signing in itself has thrown such a veil of confusion over the window that you just don't know what you've gotten. Have you gotten another Havertz, a player that we overpaid for, Chelsea flop, that is going to come in and we're going to have to make do with them because they don't hit the heights that they're meant to? Or is he going to be the player that we always needed on the left? I think it's an either or here. I think he either bangs or he's a Havertz, where we're just kind of like, okay, he's serviceable. He has some skill, he has some, but he's ultimately not good enough, or just doesn't hit the heights, So I think, that signing alone takes away some of the positivity around the window because it's a question mark. It's just a big question mark. So yeah, it's not a 10 out of 10 window, and we have done a lot, but it's a backup goalkeeper. That should have been sorted last summer. It was just basically, Berta, kind of doing something that Edu fucked up last summer. Mascara, that's a great signing, but he's a backup. Norgard, replacement for Jorginho. So the only real signings that we're looking at is Zubamendi, Gyökeres, and Noni. And while Zubamendi is a fantastic player, and while Gyökeres is a good striker, what is Noni? What is that? So I agree that we brought in a lot of players, but you can bring in a lot of players and then it ultimately not change that much because we needed level raisers in the starting 11. And right now, only Gyökeres seems like one. So it's still up to interpretation. And if Arteta's not desperate to start Noni from the beginning, it's going to get worse. I really think he needs to back the chat. Said he was tier 1. He's going to play a lot more than you thought. You gave Chelsea 50 million, so start him right away. Only 2 additions. Saka's burnt out. He's been double teamed for years. And that's another concern that goes into this window with Saka, is that he does look a little, it could just be preseason. So I want to caveat this with preseason tax. Some of our players have not hit the ground running in preseason yet. So you have to keep that in mind. But if Saka cannot carry us, he was injured last season, essentially, for almost the entire season, basically, outside of like the first 2 months or whatever, right? And then the season prior, I would say he had good numbers, but his performances didn't add up to that. I remember we had conversations, is Saka playing good or no? But his GA kind of covered it up. The last season where Saka looked fit, firing, fresh, was 22-23, and the beginning of last season he looked like it but got injured. If he's not able to replicate that level of performance, we're in trouble if the left-hand side has nothing to it. So I'm just hoping, that Saka is just preseason and he hasn't got going yet. But, you can't expect a kid to just carry you the whole time, so compare Salah's attacking partners versus Saka's. And I agree with that. Salah has rarely ever had to carry that full attack by himself, but Saka has to do it every single season and has worse players around him. So, yeah. He's only 24. Saka was poor, end of no excuse. He serves the Martinelli treatment. No, he doesn't deserve the Martinelli treatment. I really push back against this notion that if Saka plays poorly, then I feel like this is what people do to try to make it okay for Martinelli to be ass. He's been shit for 2 seasons, and looks like he's going to have another shit season. Saka, even when he's not playing amazing, comes up with the GA, and so it's not comparable. And to be honest, some players just have more credit in the bank because they're just better and they give us a lot more. Saka is our best player. When Martinelli was not a factor in 23-24, Saka was there. When Martinelli wasn't a factor, in last season, Trossard had to step up. I just think that people try to do whataboutism to make it okay. Saka has had moments where he hasn't been great, but those have been few and far between. You could never say that he's basically been shit for 2 seasons. You can't, so he's not perfect. And yes, he's made mistakes, but people were giving Martinelli golden stickers and shit and cookies for scoring the 3rd goal against Real Madrid away from home. The game was already won. It was won at 2-1. Saka scored the opener. That's the most important goal. And that's the thing, is Saka is more likely to get the opener. He's more likely to get the equalizer. He's more likely to get the assist. He's more likely to do these things because he's a better player. Martinelli gets golden stickers and cookies and fucking rainbows and butterflies and shit for scoring the 3rd goal when we've already won the game. So no, I'm so sorry, but he does not need to get the Martinelli treatment. He's quite literally our best player and needs a better player on the left-hand side because Martinelli's basically left him for dead for 2 seasons now. Let's get it right. Martinelli is done at Arsenal. Why Saka always dog shit in run-ins? He's not always dog shit in run-ins. What are you talking about? He came back from a super bad injury and was really good for us in that game against Real Madrid. That was a part of the run-in. In the league, he wasn't that great, but he was coming back from a horrific injury. So strange, bro. So strange. The second goal, you mean? Yeah, I hear you. Why is Saka always dog shit? Still, he's been the heart of our attack since he was very young, which is unfair to him. Very. Martinelli is completely trash. Martinelli sexuals need to stop coping. I just don't feel like there's a conversation to be had amongst Saka and Martinelli. There is a separate conversation with Saka, I think, which is really heavily wrapped up in the conversation around how he's been used and abused, like he's been used like a bar of soap. And so are we seeing the same level of like burst and, freshness from Saka that we saw in years gone past? Probably not. I also think there's a slight conversation around, is Saka a Batman or a Robin? But that's not a conversation for today because people are too sensitive for those conversations, and that's fine. But ultimately, Saka has been our best player for maybe almost like 4 seasons now. And when we don't have him around, we can't attack. So there's just no real comparison. Martinelli is in a tier well below Saka, and people need to keep that, like, they need to clock that. I do not like conversations where people are trying to whataboutism or do some weird comparison between the two. And because Martinelli's getting shat on, then it's like, yeah, but Saka had a bad game. Saka's bad games are few and far between. And even when he's ass, he comes up with GA. No, come on. Saka is Batman right now because ain't no one else at Arsenal ready to be a Batman. I'll tell you what, Saka is our only attacker that when he gets the ball, the whole stadium rises. Players that have weared or worn out that need refreshments, Martinelli, and Saka. Our most consistent out of the past 4 seasons, our best player for the past 4 seasons, shitting on Saka is terrible. Got to rest him whenever it's possible through the season. My guy Saka is one of only the people that steps up in the championship battles. What are y'all on? I think a big reason why, like, we struggle so much in games that matter is because we just don't have enough weapons in our arsenal, no pun intended. When we play up against these better teams, and if we had more than one weapon, not only would the team have a lift and feel more confident, but they couldn't just shut down Saka. I think ultimately what we expect Saka to do is something that nobody else expects their star player to do, which is just be the only option for anything to happen. Because like we were just saying, Salah, even if you shut down Salah, you still have to mark Gakpo or whoever, that's also playing, and, before it was Mane, and, they've changed things. And, like, of course, like, Nunez and these players aren't as good, but it's never what you see with Arsenal, which you quite literally could leave Havertz open and no one would worry about him, So we really need to. I actually think Saka plays best with a number 9. Like, I think some of the best football that I've seen him play at times has been, I mean, it's obviously like you have to put an asterisk because Southgate is a terrible coach, but I think he looks really good with a number 9. That's actually the main guy, and Saka is also like the second, kind of like his partner. Because I don't think he's a Salah. I think Salah is basically the Batman of his team, and everybody else is a compliment to him. Where I actually think Saka needs a 9 or another player with a big presence, and Saka can help facilitate for that player. I think that combination works better. But even with Havertz, Saka is still the Batman, and I think that needs to change. That's why I'm excited about Gyökeres, because I'm like, he has the personality and the skill and the goal scoring prowess to be kind of like that partner with Saka. Not sure what that does for a left wing, but and that's not to say that Saka is not an amazing player. I just think roles are roles. Salah is basically a striker. But I don't think that's what Saka is, if that makes sense. Bark, 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 bark goes doggo. That's that dog. That's the homegirl over there that's losing her shit, not my dogs. Madueke is starting left wing. That coach confirmed it on Haters. I did watch that, and I was just like, here we go. Why won't we lose games against low blocks? We do lose games against low blocks. Jess, did you see that one photo of Gyökeres after the Spurs game? He looked like he was locked in a room with the Tasmanian devil. I mean, he probably was mad that he didn't play a lot. You know, Gyökeres has not come to sit on our bench and to play second fiddle to Havertz, and he didn't score. He didn't get a lot of service. And the one thing about Gyökeres is he has like a typical striker's personality, and this is what I'm excited about, but also a little concerned about because, like, I don't know how much I buy into the Arteta doesn't like big personalities, but I do think that we haven't had a striker's mentality in this team since Aubameyang. And when strikers don't get fed and they don't score, they get mean. They're not nice. You know, they have a chip on their shoulder. They, you know, I like that Gyökeres said that he wanted to join Arsenal because the best reason for joining Arsenal was they haven't won a lot and they're supposed to be, which kind of stung a little bit because it's like, oh, you know, but it's the truth. He wanted to join a team where he can make a huge difference. That player cannot make a difference on the bench. And so it's only going to take a couple of games before you see him on the bench not looking happy. And if Arteta knows what's best for him, because Havertz is not going to be sad if he's on the bench, he's not going to be upset. Gyökeres is, you know, so it's going to be interesting having a player in the team that is going to be upset if we're playing a style that doesn't suit him getting the ball, is playing a style that doesn't get him a lot of service, or if he's not even playing as a starter. Like, he did not come to Arsenal to sit on the bench. He came to Arsenal to change our fortunes because he literally said Arsenal was the right place for me because they're a good team that hasn't won a lot. And basically, he can be the difference. How can he be the difference from the bench? You know, so it's only going to take a couple of games before this man is knocking on that door and saying, what the fuck? You know, so Arteta needs to drop the Kai shtick. Like, drop it. Like, it's not going to work. And that's probably a good reason why we didn't get it's probably a good thing that we didn't get Sesko in the end, because as much as I like Sesko and as much as I think he's going to be a great player in the future, he was scared to compete with Kai. Gyökeres doesn't see Kai as any sort of threat. You know, he's like, I'm going to come in and score the goals. He's going to force these players to give him the ball. And so, and this is what I'm interested to see, because our whole entire game strategy has been setting up suboptimal players to score goals outside of hoofing the ball into the box, or, you know, for Kai Havertz to head the ball in the back of the net. For the most part, our center forward is a facilitator, and we're setting up our DMs and our fullbacks and, you know, left wing and shit to score. The whole game plan is going to have to change because it needs to revolve around setting up the striker. And so I'm wondering how, you know, Arteta is going to deal with that, because he's quite literally never had a system where he set up the striker to score goals. A little bit with Aubameyang, you know, but he even put him on the left wing. You know, the 9 technically was Lacazette. So it's gonna get it. I could see, like, it's, yeah, you know. That's what Arteta doesn't understand. If we lose or draw with Gyökeres, Madueke fans will be mad, but more forgiving than losing with Martinelli Havertz. Exactly. Gyökeres will shout at man, demand the ball. His whole demeanor is so different than the rest of our team. Like, I think body language means a lot. You know, I actually do read a lot of body language because I feel like it's the best way to kind of see how people are really thinking and feeling. And I think Gyökeres, his body language is that of a person that's not here for shits and gigs. He's not here to be family FC. He's not here to play nice. He's here because this is his chance to show that he's the best striker in the world. He sat up there and said that he's on the same playing field as Haaland and Kane, and he is not going to let Arteta fuck him up. So this guy is going to be mad when he doesn't score. He's going to pout. He's going to be mean. They said he was grumpy because his move wasn't going through. He's not. It's, yeah, I like it. I want somebody that's not going to play nicey. I don't want to see thumbs up, you know, because you fucked up the pass and, you know, it wasn't a great pass, but like, good job, buddy. I want to see him yelling at people. You know, I want to see him when he doesn't get the ball. I want to see him shout at Odegaard. I want it, because it's going to make Odegaard better. It's going to make everybody around him better. Saka is going to be, he's going to eat. The amount of chances that Saka puts across that in those open spaces at the front post and in the box, he's going to eat that, so, but he's not going to be able to eat that from the bench, so you're going to have to play him. Odegaard should just give a fuck about Saka and feed Gyökeres instead. Well, that's the whole system is going to have to change. That's the thing. It's to play with Gyökeres. Odegaard cannot just pass the ball to Saka. Still, it's not going to work. He needs to utilize the thing now is people are going to have to worry about Gyökeres. So either that's going to open up more space for Saka, or they're going to be so focused on Saka that the ball is you're going to be able to give it to Gyökeres. So it's going to open up opportunities for either side. For the first time in a long time, nobody's worried about Havertz. I was saying this on Mo's channel, and Havertz is not that bad. And I'm like, but that's the thing, is when you get sucked into the he's not that bad, you fool yourself into thinking that just because he's not that bad of a player, that's not the same as being good or dangerous or a threat. He's not a threat. And to a certain extent, neither was Gabriel Jesus in the way that a number 9 threatens the center backs. Gyökeres is going to be a threat to that back line because he's going to make those runs in behind. There was a ball that Zubimendi put in behind, right in the left channel, right in between the fullback and the center back. And it was a really good ball, but whoever was playing up front, I think it was Havertz, couldn't get to it. Gyökeres could have probably got to that ball. Yeah. Start Gyökeres. Let these boys get used to playing with the number 9, so sorry. I'm sorry, guys, about all the coughing and the gross. I'm a monster right now, but I miss talking to you guys, so I knew this was going to be a longer show. That's why I started it a little bit earlier, because I love you guys so much, and I miss y'all to death. Let's see. Am I missing anything? Probably not. Oh, every time I see that Saka picture where they make him into a monkey, I want to fucking slap somebody across the face. Whoever made that, count your days. I hate that picture so much. It's disgusting. Doing that to any player is disgusting, by the way. Not even just Saka. I just don't get it. Football Twitter is in the fucking gutter, by the way. Like, the whole thing is just, it's so hard. Like football Twitter used to be fun. It's not fun anymore because all it is just agenda. It's just agenda and like weird stuff, like constant bullshit. Like, the worst type of people that banter, that don't even know how to banter, and they always are like saying the most obvious things or things that don't make sense, or using who scored scores and stuff like that. It's just cringe. This season is going to be one of the worst for that, by the way. So, it's just not fun anymore. So yeah, it's so easy to spot the rage bait. Exactly. It's just like, really? Like, come on, so yeah, football Twitter is in the fucking gutter. Tashima says Gyökeres is only as good as his service. Yeah, I do agree with that. But I think we have also an idea that we don't create chances because, again, chance creation in the way that it's read on stats doesn't take into account the amount of times that Saka crosses the ball into the box, low and hard across the 6, and it gets kicked out by a defender at the front post, or the goalkeeper comes out and gets it. Those are chances that we just don't get because we don't ever have a striker there. So we do create chances. But we need to create more, and I agree with that. But Arsenal need to remember what it's like to have a striker and to create for a striker, because we haven't done that in a long time. So the sooner the better. So a striker's job is to finish his chances. That's their only job. Arsenal can always buy a 22-23 young striker after World Cup and Gabriel Jesus is released by Tesco. Well, buying Tesco Havertz was going to be a mistake. Fair enough. We can always buy a young striker. That's the thing, is when people act like it's a sliding doors moment, I'm like, there's always going to be new young talent out there. Of course, there are some talents that are one out of, like, they're one of ones. Like, you're never going to find another KDB. In fact, like, even like the last couple of games, because, you know, Wirtz hasn't really been putting up the GA that I've seen Liverpool fans do well, the sooner that you guys realize he's not KDB, the better. You'll be able to accept that he's more of a Pedri in the 10 and all this kind of stuff. Because the reality is, if you keep measuring every single number 10 up against KDB, you're always going to be disappointed because he's a one of one, you know? So players like that don't come around again. But young strikers like Sesko will come up again, you know? So we'll have another opportunity to bring in a striker, and we should be in the striker market soon because Gyökeres is 26, 27 years old. I think he just turned 27 not too long ago. And Gabriel Jesus and Havertz should be on their way out. So we should be able to get another striker. It should not be that big of a deal. If he continues, there isn't going to be another Yamal either. This proves some people don't like Saka because of his skin color, not just because he is an aesthetic player. Of course, there's always going to be that, you know, with Saka and other young black players. I'm like, Rashford is a really good example. He just is not liked because he's, you know, he's not, they like black players to be a certain type of black player. They like you to be docile, humble, non-flashy. They had a huge issue with Rashford, huge issue with Pogba, and there's a certain reason for that. You can't be that. Or as like in stark contrast, you know, there was never really a time where Pogba's a very like, outside of like this drug thing that he served his band for and everything, he doesn't drink or anything. He's a religious man. You know, he's not somebody out in the streets. He doesn't do any of those things. He has a family. His brother is a weirdo. But outside of that, Pogba has been like a very straight arrow. He just has hair dye and likes to buy nice things with his money. But they have no problem with Grealish being a literal drunk, you know, buying prostitutes, having sex parties. The difference in those two things, because one player has hair dye and likes to buy nice things, but is a family man, but that's not okay. But Grealish being a literal drunk that needs help is not a problem. Yeah. So Rashford is doing well now, got out of that toxic environment. I'm happy for him. I think Rashford is a fantastic player. Used to always give us a hard time, you know, so I'm happy to see him gone. But Rashford is a really good player that, you know, I didn't get it. Like, I didn't get it. Grealish gets drunk and gets zero hate is crazy. Zero hate. Zero. None. He's a good lad. You know, he's just a lad. He's fucking 30. He's 30. Seriously, let's not even get into the fact that he's basically been a flop, you know, at Manchester City. But he's 30, and his behavior, if he was black, would have been completely like looked at completely different. But the only types of black players that are allowed are Contes and Sakas, the types of black players that are humble and nice and sweet. And the only time they started to hate on Saka, like when Saka's confidence started getting a little, they started to look at him some type of way. But you look at like Miles Lewis Skelly, they act like he's like a gang member, the way that they act. Like, it's crazy. But whatever. He hasn't scored over 30 goals for City, by the way. He's a bum. Eze is clear, just as good as Wirtz, but never gets the same hype behind him. If Eze was white, he would be treated like Messi. It's crazy. Speaking of Eze, I know you guys were asking, like, is there any Eze news? There is no Eze news. I know I'd seen something from one of the journalists saying that, you know, it's likely that him and Gahey will stay because they haven't received any like solid offers for either player, which makes sense. You know, we're about to start the season. And so the idea of bringing in a player once the season starts that's not really something that I feel like Arsenal are going to do. So yeah, I'm not quite sure where we stand with Eze, but it's still murky. You know, we don't need to sell. We do need to sell. If we're going to bring in a player, it's going to come if Trossard goes or Martinelli goes. I don't trust Arsenal. Arsenal are very unserious, and they always stop just short of the one player that will push us over the edge. Eze is the type of player that if you put him into our team, you look so much more serious. But without him, it looks underwhelming, in the context of competing against City and Liverpool. That's the only context that matters, not the context of last season or what we were when we had Mustafi in the team, but the context of, are we going to compete for the title and be able to overcome the teams that we're coming up against? That one player makes a huge difference, because the one thing that Arsenal miss is X factor. And I still don't think we've addressed that properly. Gyökeres is one thing, but we need X factor in the other positions, left wings, attacking midfield, whatever. And we haven't done that. So and again, the big question mark is Noni. But if I'm being honest with you, it's a question mark until proven otherwise. Some people have already put him into the category of an upgrade and all that kind of stuff. That's great. But I don't want to lie and say that this is a player that when we were linked to him, I instantly said no. So in a couple of weeks, I'm not going to turn around without ever seeing him play for Arsenal and all of a sudden be like, yeah, but we've solved that. I mean, maybe could have. Maybe he is X factor. I don't know that yet. So I don't want to lie, but we always kind of stop short just of that one player. I remember 23, 24, or right before 23, 24, we were linked to Kudus and linked to Xavi Simons, and we ended up not getting either because we had spent all the money on Havertz and we needed to sell. We didn't sell Eddie or ESR. Neither one of them played significant minutes that season. And we missed out on those two players. Those players, both of them now play for rivals, London rivals at that. So, or going to. So it's disappointing, to see that our kind of like our incomings have stopped just shy again of, those actual because of those outgoings. But maybe Berta will change things, but I do kind of sense that Arsenal are kind of okay with their business. They think they've done it. We got a striker, we got a left winger, plays on both sides, versatile. You got to squint to see if he's good enough. We got a defender and a goalkeeper. So. But yeah, as the days go by, I sense Crystal Palace are going to be less interested in selling the closer it gets to the season. That's another thing you have to think of is it's not just about us, it's about Crystal Palace. They will be losing their best player. Do you think they want to lose their best player on deadline day? So the closer it gets to the season, the more unlikely it is that we will get Eze, especially because it takes us so long to sell. Reece Nelson, they're looking at Sterling instead of him, which is dark. If they'd rather take Sterling than Reece Nelson, a player that they had at their club last season, then, what are we really going to get for him? Stuttgart, they want Fabio Vieira, but they only want to play 20 million, but we want 30. This is where Berta needs to, I guess, show his experience, because whenever this happened with Edu, the deal just fell off. Like, there was no negotiation going back and forth. It was just, well, this is what we want, so fuck off. And we usually end up keeping that player and getting less the next summer. Don't know what's going on with Sambi, but he's not in training, so I guess we're just gonna tell him to kick rock. Zinchenko will probably end up staying because he's gonna run his deal down. Let's be real. Nobody wants him. So, where are these outgoings gonna come from? So, Palace monitoring Gassand. Is that a striker or midfielder? Who's that? I just like to see us under a very good manager. Saw some Noni stats that showed he's only played like 5 games on the left, but he's only played 5 games on the left. But to me, it doesn't. I don't really. He's only played 5 games on the left. I get why he can play on the left. I just think it's a huge risk for Arsenal. Like, if we didn't need that, and we already had a really good left wing or something. Like, we already had a great attack, but our whole summer was not banking on a top left wing, then I wouldn't have as big of a problem with us bringing in somebody like Noni and trying him on the left, because like, he can play. I know he can play on the left. Like, he can play him on the left. But it'd be different than what we have been doing because we played inverted full wingers, but I wouldn't mind shaking it up anyway because it's stale and predictable. It's just very risky, considering all we needed to do is go out and get a left wing, and we're getting somebody that will be a project on that side. We'll need some, like, I just don't know why we couldn't just get a left winger. But I know he can play on the left. Like, it's not that deep. He can play on the left. But is he going to be good enough there to be better than Martinelli and Trossard? That's really what it is. And if he can't be better than that, then God, because they're not keeping anybody out the team. There was a clip that was going around of Harvey Barnes, I think his name is, at Newcastle. He got the ball. It was like a 3v3 type of scenario. The defender was right in front of him. He cut it inside and then hit it into the near corner. And everybody was like, can Martinelli do that? And it's not just to pile on a Martinelli, but I think when you watch other attackers play, to me, it becomes even more clear how far off Martinelli kind of is, or far off we are in terms of left wing, in terms of the types of skills you need to have in those positions. That was it wasn't like out of nowhere, but he wasn't in like a tap in situation or like wide open. He had the skill to like open up that space and to hit it into that front post. And so, yeah, I think, if Madueke could at least add more tools on that side, that could help, because it's really, 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 really not at the level. I will agree on one thing. We need a left winger who will slap Odegaard and Rice on the face if he's not constantly distributing different variations. Arsenal should be a club with a director of football that scouts all the young top talents and have a manager that is very good at developing players and implementing a style solves all issues. This is why I was a little bit disappointed that we didn't end up getting that Tugnazi guy that, Berto was trying to bring in with him, who was like that really good, like he was going to be head of recruitment and had a very good track record with young players. And we stuck with Jay Ellis or whatever his name is. I don't even know what his name is, but anything that we've been doing up until this point is probably not good enough. So we probably needed to fully shake things up, and we stuck with somebody else. So I was a little bit disappointed, because one thing, you're right. Arsenal is not the type of club that's going to go toe to toe with the top teams for the top talent that's already done. We need to bring in the gems before they're ready to go. And, we're not really doing that right now. That's our best way of competing. Must have been a long stream. I went to the gym just as you were starting, came back, and you're still on. I said it was going to be a long stream because we haven't really just sat and chatted for a while. And I knew there was going to be a lot of people that wanted to chime in on this, because I'm getting a sense online that there's a little bit of like concern about us and where we're at, with our preseason, and are we ready to start the season? And the season is around the corner, and I could use a couple more weeks. I'm still not really recovered from last season. I'm still feeling the effects of a traumatic season, so I really don't want to start the season, but it's coming. And so, I wanted to gauge your guys's like, kind of like, do you feel like we're ready? Have you seen enough in preseason? And I feel like the overwhelming reaction is they don't feel ready. Even Madrid signs gems before they blow up, but we're obsessed with Prem proven. It's annoying. Nice Boys FC, no one yells at anyone. No training ground bust ups. Yeah, I wouldn't mind if there was some more yelling, like, we don't need to always be so nicey-nicey, it's not the end of the world if somebody says, "Can you fucking pass the ball?" Like, shit, it's not that big of a deal, it's not the end of the world. We are too nice, we're too okay, we don't speak straight, I noticed that a lot of our players go into the media and instead of saying, "We're going to win trophies," they say, "We're gonna improve, we wanna go to the next level." Like, what does that mean? Just speak straight. Are we gonna win trophies this season or not? But the manager speaks like that too. He speaks around it and is not very direct. He doesn't say we're going to win something or whatever. It's very ambiguous. And I think that lack of like straightforward is why this club is a little soft. It's if we're not winning, we're losing, so we don't need to we're just gonna improve, get a little bit better, improve on the margins, blah blah. Are we winning or not? Even though we signed 6 players this season, I don't think we have improved much from last season. We still need a couple of players. That's the problem is people still feel like we need a couple of players, not even just one. At present, we should be aiming for 90 plus points, but I don't think we win the league. I mean, 90 plus points, we need to be able to beat the small teams. That's my fear right now is do I feel like we're going to beat the small teams and beat them easily? I'm not sure because they're just going to do the deep block. And that's where we're going to lose the majority of our points. I do think we'll lose to a top 6 team this season for sure. We won't keep our record, but I don't think we're going to get blown out. And we'll keep it close. In most of those games, we can get draws or whatever. But, those small teams, we need to be able to beat them home and away easily. I'm telling you. City and Liverpool are going to beat all of those small teams by 3 goals. 4-1, 3-1, 2-0. Easy. We're going to be 70th minute. Are we going to score a goal? Like, come on. It's to avoid backfiring. Gyökeres signing is meant to help against small teams, but the style of play is disturbing to watch. But I think you have to open up against the small teams and I'm sorry about that. But we also have to expect that they may score, but feel like we can score more. And I don't feel like we believe that. I think we need a couple of games where we do kind of fuck up and concede, and then we just give the ball to Gyökeres a couple of times and he scores 2 or 3 goals and it doesn't matter. That'll give that like, well, if you score a goal, it doesn't matter because we're going to score 2 or 3. That's kind of what we need. But I think we're kind of shell-shocked and we feel like we need to keep a clean sheet in order to score, so we can only have to score 1. I think we kind of need some open games where we go back and forth and see that we can score a lot of goals. So we'll stop being scared because we do seem scared to concede and we shouldn't be. We shouldn't be. And then, if a team, I feel like we encourage that deep block because we sit up on the halfway line and pass it sideways and backwards, and maybe there's a way that we can get teams off of our back, because they don't sit deep against Liverpool, but they know Liverpool are going to beat them up. So I wonder why against Liverpool they don't do deep block, but against us they do deep block. There's a reason for that. We encourage it, and we should probably play in a different way. I wish we had more entertaining ways to lose. We'll probably lose to Fulham. I'm glad Rodrigo's staying at Madrid. It eases the pain I endured when Madueke bomb was dropped. Yo, when the Madueke bomb dropped, I thought I was going to jump off of a cliff. It was just, it's so shocking, but then not shocking at the same time. It's not shocking at the same time, uh, but now we have to hope that he saves us. Now we have to hope that he saves us. Let's see. You guys were just talking about this Gisand person, but he's going to Aston Villa, not Crystal Palace. Marino should be playing in the 9 long before Havertz does. Last season felt like we didn't want to score. No other manager plays. RUC, who's Rook. But back to this, we also saw that against Spurs, that Spurs scored at the back end of the first half, didn't they? Yeah, they scored in the first half. And we didn't even look like scoring at all at any point in the second half. We had 16 shots and 1 on target. That is the quintessential Arsenal drop points at home against a mid-table team. So, we need to get rid of that. And I think that's what made people, like, scared. It wasn't really about Tottenham or the mistake that we made. It's that the fact that we looked the same trying to score a goal, but we weren't really pressing the button. We weren't really pressing. Our play is predictable. No other manager plays Rice as an advanced 8. Okay. Mark my words, top 4 race is coming for Arteta. I'm not looking forward to this coming season if our transfer dealings are complete. Spurs also hit the post 3 times in the first half. What is it with Arsenal fans? When the window opens, we said we want a keeper, 2 midfielders, a winger, a striker, and a defender, an attacking midfielder. What's with the all caps? What is with Arsenal fans? When the window opens, we said we wanted a keeper, 2 midfielders, a winger, a striker, and a defender and an attacking midfielder. So what's up with all the caps? Like, are you saying that we got all that, so why are you complaining? Because we haven't gotten the attacking midfielder. When we said a winger, we didn't say it was Noni. 2 midfielders, one of them is a backup. That's just a regular player. So what do you mean? Like, what's with all the caps? I don't understand what all the caps are for. If we had done all of this stuff, by the way, and we'd actually done it, people would be happy. Like, if the winger was not Nani and it was, let's even say Leao. I think the majority of the fan base can get behind that because at least we know he's a level raiser that plays on the left. If we had gotten Eze, then people would be happy. But there's a reason. It's not because we've gotten everything that we wanted, and then now we're just wanting more. It's we haven't even gotten that stuff. It's let's be honest here. Let's be honest. We'd still feel like we need more, not because we're just being greedy, but we haven't done enough. We added only 2 players. The others are just replacements. Liverpool won't get Rodrigo, but they will get Isak. We're cooked. We are being punished for being Arsenal fans. If Liverpool get Isak and Rodrigo, wrap it all the way up. I miss the good old Arsenal who used to score beautiful team goals. Now all we do is pass sideways and try to score from a set piece. I mean, at this stage, I just think that the fan base wants to see a better style. And I think a better style will mean more wins. When we were under Arsene, we played good attacking football, and we used to beat all the small teams, but our problem was that we couldn't beat the big teams. And we were kind of like that in the 22-23 season where we beat up on all the small teams home and away. It was like easy work. But when we played against City in particular, we struggled. And that's what ultimately cost us the league. And then we capitulated against like West Ham and Southampton. But we've completely like kind of swapped that around now. In the 23-24 season, we really struggled in the first half of the season to score enough goals. We were really struggling. Second half of the season, we were perfect. And we haven't been able to replicate that. Now we can't beat the small teams. And we're good against the big teams because last season our best performances were against the big teams. We didn't lose to any of the big teams. We still beat Tottenham. We still beat Chelsea. We still won these games. But we're struggling against the small teams. So we need to go back a little bit, take a couple steps back. But I don't think he can. I don't think he can reel it back. I really don't. We need to be able to beat the small teams. That is our biggest problem right now. I'm not like the big teams were going to drop points here and there to Liverpool, whoever, but our biggest problem is we cannot beat the small teams. We can't beat Brighton. We can't beat Fulham. We can't beat Bournemouth. We can't beat Brentford. Those are our biggest problems right now. His obsession with physicality and dominance ruined us. Let's hope and seriously pray that Madueke will revive the left wing while we wait for Eze. We have to hope that Madueke is going to revive the left wing because he's come in to be the only winger. His coach was saying that he's going to start for Arsenal, so I'm expecting Arteta to drop Martinelli and just play Madueke and just call it a day. If he doesn't play Madueke and he is sitting on the bench behind Saka and we're still watching Martinelli and Trossard fight for who can be more shit, then it's just finished, you know. He's too obsessed with this attack, and I feel like it's because this attack is, like, safe. We don't need safe in attack, we need dynamism and danger and threat. We don't need safety. No Eze, Lookman, Leao, 3 out of 10 window, all depend on attacks in the Premier League now. I miss peak Vangerball 2.0, 2013 to 2015. That's when I became a fan. He got Pep's number, but at what cost? Especially West Ham, Aston Villa, and Newcastle. We don't even have the type of like off the ball physicality that matters because we don't have anybody that can run through the midfield because we still get ran down by Newcastle and West Ham and Aston Villa. So our physicality doesn't do anything because we still struggle against teams that have runners in the middle. So what's the point? We actually had the perfect physicality in 22-23. I remember, I forget what season it might have been the season we finished 5th. Because we're still getting slapped by the big teams, I think. So, and we played against Liverpool, and I feel like we lost to them 2-0. And it wasn't as bad as it usually was, but they were like giants and we were like super small. But in the 22-23 season, we were just as big as everybody else. Xhaka was 6 foot, Party was 6 foot, Gabriel was tall, Saliba was tall, Ben White was tall. We were a tall team. Like our attack wasn't big, but it didn't need to be. So I don't know why we needed to get bigger and slower. Like it was just so strange. I don't know what Arteta's deal is, but he's obsessed with off the ball shit. So, The Art of Shin Kicking, a bestseller by Mikel Arteta. Arteta is every clown knows that we are predictable all on Saka. Bro, the only consolation I have is that for the length of time we as Arsenal fans have suffered, surely there is a period of time where things get better, surely. It's all up to Mikel. If Gyökeres performs really well tomorrow, will it give you a little bit of hope for match day 1? Yeah. And I think it'll lift everybody. The way that we started in 22-23 stemmed from a good preseason. We've had indifferent preseasons since then, and we've gotten indifferent results at the beginning of the season. It's connected. And so, and it's not just about the results, it's about the way that we're playing. I do think if the best thing about buying a striker is it injects life into the team. But Arteta is going to stifle that by keeping Kai Havertz in the team and pretending he needs to ease Gyökeres in. So, yeah, if the Emirates sees Gyökeres score 2 or 3 goals in these first couple games against these Spanish teams, then the whole like everything about our club will just lift. It just will. But because we're seeing the same thing, we're not really scoring goals. It's hard to get excited about seeing the same things over and over again. So, yeah, but Arteta needs to actually play him, you know, and that's just the reality. Hold on, let me get Ben's real quick because he's crying. What's wrong? What's wrong? See, I have a cone on my head. It's so bad. That cone is so big. I ordered him a smaller one. It should be here soon because he is struggling with this big one. Let's see. Yeah. That cone is so big. I think he's not thinking about number 14, which is a good thing because ESPN are emphasizing heavily on the number and they think he's already a flop. ESPN don't know shit about fuck. They're like one of the worst outlets I've ever seen. They need to stick to basketball and shit. Like seriously, ESPN FC, if you're watching, you are some of the worst pundits, analysts I've ever seen. It's garbage. You guys are utilizing the same things over and over again, and nobody's listening. I do not care what ESPN FC has to say about anything about Arsenal. Genuinely, they literally know nothing. Not worried about Jokeris one bit. I know he will cook. Wanted him over Isak. It's okay, buddy. It's okay. I'm almost done. That cone is not as big as I thought it was. I think he's overreacting. I think it's kind of big. It's kind of big. It needs to be like this big. Like I think because his head is so small. What's wrong? No. He is kind of spoiled though, I can't lie. So we could beat United, Liverpool, Newcastle, Spurs first few games, and then we will somehow drop points in Everton and Leeds for sure. But yeah, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and go so I can pay attention to Benzie because he is hashtag panicking. Let's see if you guys can see. He is panicking because the thing is on his head. It's so funny. You can see him. Yeah, you're panicking. I know. So yeah, but just wanted to chit chat. I just wanted to gauge you guys, but tomorrow the post match may be a little bit later than the game's end because I have something to do, but I will do a post match. It just may not be right after the game, but I am going to watch the game. I just have something to take care of before. So yeah, but we'll see how things pan out tomorrow. We'll see. But I'll definitely see you guys tomorrow after the game at some point. Make sure you guys like this video and subscribe to the channel on the way out, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye, guys.